So for a while now on my channel, we've been looking at the backstory of Black Ops 4. We've been looking at specific specialist characters, some characters who aren't even in the game, but today we're diving a little bit deeper. Today we're going to be looking at the backstory of Blackout, and normally my videos have some bits of theory that aren't really given to us. This entire story that we're talking about today is given to us, and you just kind of have to dig a little bit deeper to find out everything that we know. So once again, this is not a theory, and this story actually explains how Blackout is possible, how there can be multiple of an individual character all on one map, how they can respawn game after game, and how there are different characters from different eras. For example, the specialist characters fighting alongside Frank Woods and Alex Mason. And before you say it, Blackout is not in a simulation. It is not in a simulation whatsoever. Even Vondahar himself, before Black Ops 4 came out, said that is not the case, but as it turns out, there's a much deeper backstory than it just being a simulation. So to fully understand everything, we have to start from the very beginning, and it begins with Savannah Mason and Lucy Mason, who is Jessica's daughter, walking through a cemetery. And basically all this scene shows us is that Savannah is the sister of Jessica Mason Green, the person whose gravestone this belongs to. Lucy is Jessica Mason Green's daughter. Now, as we find out in the next scene here, Jessica Mason Green appears to have died during a mission. Now, there's a lot more to this mission that we're going to talk about throughout this story, as it appears to be a setup, and we actually get a lot more information about that through the main story, so we'll talk about that more. But in this scene, you clearly see Jessica get shot in the face, and looks like she is dying in a corner throughout this cutscene. Now, the next scene we see after this may actually be the most important scene in the entire story, and that is when the specialist characters are arriving at Savannah's compound, if you want to call it that. And as they're arriving there, they're all kind of talking about why they're here. They don't really know why, but it's paying really good money, so that they're all going to do it. And as we find out in the scene after this, Savannah is actually the person who created the simulation from the Black Ops 3 multiplayer. If you don't already know, Black Ops 3 multiplayer is played in a simulation on a computer, and as it turns out, Savannah Mason is the character who created this. Now, in this cutscene here, they don't call it the simulation, they call it the immersion, and as she explains, Frank Woods here is actually your coach in the simulation. Now, throughout the rest of the story, there's basically two storylines going on. The one where Savannah is slowly losing her sanity and going more and more insane because the specialist characters that she just recruited to help her out are slowly turning against her. Now, the big question is, why are these specialist characters slowly turning against her? And the answer to that is, remember that cutscene we saw at the very beginning where Jessica got shot in the face? As it turns out, Savannah set up that entire thing. The question is, why? Why did Savannah want to kill her sister? The answer to that is Jessica Mason Green was actually fighting against the research that Savannah was putting forward. She was against the simulation or the immersion, and she was against Blackout, as we're going to find out in a little bit. And if you're wondering how I know this for sure, it's actually shown in one of the pieces of intel called West of Eden, and here's what it says.
You're out of your fucking mind! My project is beyond our wildest dreams. I made this real. Me! It's not ethical. You've seen what happens. How is that a better world? People are dying. The enemy doesn't play by your rules. Right. That's why you stole theirs. What happened to you? You know what? It's over. I won't let you do this.
So because of this, Savannah tries to kill Jessica, but as we know, it doesn't work. And Jessica actually goes ahead and re-recruits all of the specialist characters, and in turn, fight against Savannah Mason. However, once you unlock all of the cutscenes in the specialist headquarters and unlock all of the intel, you get a very, very strange cutscene, and here's what it is.
Thanks. Angola. Sorry, kid. No. It's you in the box. It's always been you. Don't black out, man. I'm on it.
So this cutscene is really confusing. It starts out with Mason and Woods in Verrucht, or Asylum, on Blackout, and they are telling you that this whole time the campaign in Black Ops 1 is all wrong, that the whole time Mason was the one in the box, Mason was the one taken captive, and not Woods. Now, what we know from the first two Black Ops games is that's not true. It was Woods captured in the box. However, that's not what this is saying here. Why? And the answer to that is Savannah. Savannah has done this. Savannah is the one that has caused this cutscene as a whole. The question is how? Now, we gotta dig into Savannah's backstory a little bit, starting off with her name. As we know, this is Savannah Mason. This is shown in her house in this article in the magazine. You can see her name is clearly Savannah Mason. So now we get to the part where shit really hits the fan, and it's not actually in any of the cutscenes, but rather in the intel. Now these are unlocked in the Specialist HQ by completing various missions for each piece of intel. Now I have them all unlocked, and the first one we're going to look at here is called Lost Highway. And the audio file for this one really doesn't introduce anything new, but it's actually the image off to the right there that you have to focus on. As you can see, it doesn't say here that it's Dr. Savannah Mason, it says Dr. Savannah Myers. Now, there's two explanations for this. The first of which is that Savannah actually married into the Mason family, and a lot of doctors actually keep their maiden names after they get married in a business sense. They actually accept the new name, but use their old name, their maiden name, for business and for being a doctor. The second situation that you can look at is that she actually married someone named Myers and changed her name from Mason to Myers. This is never made clear through any of the intel, through any of the cutscenes. We just know she simply has two last names. And unfortunately, I'm not going to lie, throughout all of the intel, all of the cutscenes, there's no answer for this. However, if we look to the very first piece of intel, this is where shit really gets crazy, and a lot of people don't understand what's going on here. So let's listen to it, and then let me explain it to you.
Hey, where are you?
What keeps you alive in a cage is knowing you're in a cage.
You're not in a cage, Frank.
I look him in the eye every single day. I'm losing him.
Oh, come on. Now you're just feeling sorry for yourself. Out here, they get another shot. A fair chance.
That's why I love you, sweetheart. You make no fucking sense whatsoever.
Oh, piss off. They made a choice. If you're losing them, just grab yourself a Huey and run search and rescue.
Yeah, that's a great fucking idea. You can't kill me.
So the big takeaway from that piece of intel there is that Savannah is banging Frank Woods. Now, how does that make any sense, as Frank Woods is a much older character, was born in a completely different century? How does that make any sense? And a lot of people assume that this means that they are banging in the simulation, but let me tell you, that is not the case. And to fully understand what's going on here, we only have to listen to a couple more even pieces of the intel, and we can piece together what Blackout is, how it's made possible, and the characters involved with the entire thing. So to start things out, we are going to look at the very last piece of intel, and we really only need to listen to half of it to get the major points across.
They will all be taken care of by nightfall.
Excellent. This whole incident was merely an oversight. Project Blackout is thriving. Sites are under construction all over the world.
So that is the first time we hear Blackout referred to as Project Blackout. And you may be asking, who is she talking to here? The person she's talking to is actually Raul Menendez, one of the bad characters from the previous Black Ops games. And once again, you may be wondering, how in the hell is this person alive? Don't worry, we'll get there. And to understand this, we have to listen to a different piece of intel. This one is called Mason's Ladder. And this one, you're going to hear Frank Woods giving Alex Mason a bunch of numbers and story of what actually has gone on. This is Woods programming Mason using the numbers that we saw all the way in Black Ops 1.
Ascension 7, 21, 14, 20, 4, 0, 5, 4, 20.
His sister.
No, you're still in the box, Mason. her sister.
2, 1, 14. Archetype.
Yeah. Both of us.
So what you're hearing at the very end of that is Woods telling Mason that both of them are archetypes. But at this point, we don't really know what archetypes are. But that piece of intel does explain what's going on in this cutscene. This cutscene is part of Woods trying to properly program Mason. However, we do get a little bit more information about these archetypes in the next piece of intel. This one is called From Vorkuta with What the Fuck.
Yeah, I brought him back. Using your fucking numbers.
My numbers. No longer.
Alright, he's in here. You ready?
Duh.
Mason!
Yeah, this better be goddamn good, because you woke me up.
Mason! You look like hammered shit.
It's all in your mind, Woods.
Right? Oh,
Fuck! No! Mason! Mason, stop! Stop! He's real. He's right here. He made it out of Vorkuta. I want you to look at him. Mason, look at him.
It is me, comrade.
Reznov. Frank, what the fuck?
Yeah, Al. He was the first.
The first what?
The first archetype.
Now, believe it or not, this piece of intel explains everything, starting with this interaction right here.
Mason!
Yeah, this better be goddamn good, because you woke me up.
Mason! You look like hammered shit.
It's all in your mind, Woods.
Now, why does that explain anything? Well, this has actually been said before in one of the cutscenes. Here it is.
Mason! Better be goddamn good. You woke me up.
Sergeant Frank Woods. You look like hammered shit.
It's all in your mind, Mason.
So at this point, we know Woods is an archetype, Mason is an archetype, and from that last piece of intel, Reznov was the very first archetype. On top of that, whenever one of these archetypes gets booted up, the first thing that they are told is that they look like a piece of hammered shit. Almost like that's a way of controlling their mind and making things make sense to them, having to do with the numbers that we talked about. So, what are these archetypes? They're actually people brought back from the dead. This is Project Blackout that Savannah Mason has been working on. So to answer the question, what is Blackout? It's essentially a collection of islands where Savannah is testing these archetypes. She's bringing characters back to life and making them fight against each other to essentially create an infinite army. These characters that are being brought back to life are essentially the same thing that went down in Jurassic Park, but with dinosaurs. But just to make things clear, the way that this works is that any character from any Black Ops game can be brought into Blackout through an archetype. So any character, alive or dead, can be brought into Project Blackout. And just to prove this whole thing, there is another piece of intel where Ruin and Battery are talking like they are fighting on the island. They can see people dying to the zone, and they even talk about the numbers, meaning these aren't the original Battery and Ruin. These are archetypes of these characters that are being forced to fight on one of these Blackout islands. And here it is.
Dropping like flies.
What the fuck is going on? When did you last see Wilkes? Or that psycho, Kristoff?
People are actually dying out there in the zone. For real.
Well, that ain't gonna be us.
I feel you, Walsh. One minute I think I'm on top of this. And then it feels like I'm in a dream. Ascend from darkness. I keep seeing shapes.
No, not shapes. They're numbers. You're seeing fucking numbers.
So there it is, the story behind Blackout. And this isn't something I made up. These are all taken from cutscenes and pieces of intel that are given to us by Treyarch. Now, the one thing I do have to address before this video ends is, yes, Savannah is banging Frank Woods, a real-life version of him who has been brought back from the dead. The The whole thing is weird. Essentially, she is banging her grandfather's best friend. It's something straight out of a porno, and honestly, I can't believe that they put it into the game. But if you have any questions, disagree with anything I said, feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. Also, this video took forever to put together, get the story completely straight. So if you did enjoy this video, I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel and like what you see, I do these story videos probably about once a week on the channel. So if you like what you see and want to stay up to date on all my videos, the best way to do so is make sure you hit that subscribe button and have notifications turned on. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making it.